Hey, welcome back. This is Rob Anspach, and we have another edition of eHeroes. Today's eHero is Ryan Smith, and he's going to talk about re-emergence. Now,
Hmm.
this is a term he coined for his veterinary coaching practice that I think actually fits for all you entrepreneurs out there, at least coming out of this post-pandemic thing. So as you're growing your business, you want to pay attention to what Ryan's saying. So welcome, Ryan, and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
Now, yeah, you started out in veterinary coaching, and
Hmm.
you got all these veterinarians that they don't know what they're doing. Out of this pandemic because
Right.
they were closed or people just weren't taking their pets, and
Hmm.
so what are you telling them to do that these
Yeah.
entrepreneurs can copy?
Right. So, and it's a really strange thing. So, like with so many things where they with that got closed down with COVID, there
Mhm.
was this whole like in the veterinary world, it was actually the opposite. They actually got busier
Wow.
because people were home. Then they realized that, okay, now I'm spending more time with my pet. So I'm actually seeing things that I may not have picked up on with my pet.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that are adopting animals during COVID. So there is now a whole animal population that are used to people being home all the time. So right, so now they're taking them to the veterinarian for their first care and all the things that go with it. And then the veterinarians are like, hold up, we don't let anybody into the clinic because they're really well trained in public health. They
Mhm.
know what herd health looks like.
Right.
They're trained on it more than most human doctors are. So they've got this public health knowledge. So they're like, hold up, you're not coming in the hospital, but they have no idea what to do from a business standpoint. They're like, wait, shutting our doors, not letting people in. We know how to treat animals, but we don't let the people in. What do we do from a business standpoint? So some of them shut down. Some of them were so busy that they never knew really how to adapt. They just start doing things without the people in the room.
Mhm.
So there's this idea then it's okay, well, what's the reemergence look like as things begin to reopen and change from the world perspective? How do we do things? How do we learn from all the things that we had to adapt during COVID that we can actually carry forward in business?
Mhm.
And most of the time, it's things that they never thought about. In human medicine, we've been doing telemedicine for many years. Veterinary medicine was not something that they thought about. It was just you call up and make an appointment and go in and see your veterinarian. So now telemedicine is a huge thing for animal health because okay, if I have a lame dog or I have a dog that has allergies, I can take a picture of the dog's ears and send it. So, how do we take those things and then go, okay, what does that look like for customer care going forward? Somebody has to sit in the lobby for 4 hours to to go into business. They're not happy about it. The veterinarian's like, oh, we got people that are out there for 4 hours. So how do we adapt to those technologies to carry it
Yeah,
forward so we can
because
go much better?
my dog is 13 years old. He's a
Hmm.
beagle. He has
Right.
no patience for anybody and will
Hmm.
not sit in a room with when there's other animals. So, doing a Zoom like this or
Hmm.
a teleconference where I just put my dog up and,
Hmm.
the dog can show everything that's wrong with him, or I have to do this. And
Right.
it seems like a better logical, granted, I'm not going to be able to do all the exams
Right.
but, you know, for a dog that's older that has no
Hmm.
patience with others, you
Right.
know, sitting 4 hours is not going to bode well for anybody.
Exactly, and there's a lot of animals that don't travel well. You have a cat, and in this time of where new animals have come into people's lives, then now there's this huge animal anxiety, so separation anxiety. So now
Mhm.
you have this new puppy, and then you hand it off to somebody, and they can't see the human that they're around 24 hours a day. So now there's separation anxiety, which is going to be a whole nother thing that's going to come post pandemic. Um, but yeah, it's like, and then there's this idea of asynchronous communication, right? So text messaging, that's
Mhm.
asynchronous communication, right? I send you a text, I don't expect you to respond the next moment. Some people do, but that's a whole different thing. The same thing can happen in veterinary medicine. It's like not, they can send a consult request and then you schedule it, or they can send in pictures of the dog's ears and you can go back and forth when you have that client patient relationship. And I think where entrepreneurs can think about this is, how do I create asynchronous communication with clients? What can I do to create, right? Zoom is the new thing, which, right? So everybody's on Zoom, but we think that we have to automatically hop on and do a call like what we're on right now from that. How do I use things like Voxer or Signal or text messaging, or how do I keep my data? I don't want to give out my personal information always to clients. But I want to communicate with them in an asynchronous way that's not just email where things get lost.
Yeah,
So,
and you know, something that's new to somebody else like Zoom, I've been using it for 5, 6 years.
mhm,
Now it's just caught on because of this pandemic. So,
right.
some of the things that are born out of this pandemic or made more popular because of the pandemic,
Mhm,
I think that people are like, "Wow, is that new?" No,
right,
but
right.
it's new to them.
Yep, exactly. Again, in the thinking about the veterinary world, there's emergency people that are on call overnight, where they have to have a second phone that is attached to the clinic, and the people call the clinic, get the phone number, then they call the veterinarian, then the veterinarian has to go in overnight to see what's going on with this animal, or they send it to an ER or something like that. Well, with this kind of a consult, if you want to set up times like that, let's have the conversation from me sitting in my bed and taking a look at what's going on with your pet.
Hmm.
It's a
Yeah,
whole lot. Yeah. Yeah.
and
And I
and
can,
we can adapt that stuff to regular entrepreneurs. Well, not regular, but
right.
everybody
Yeah.
that's out there that has a
Right.
business.
Hmm.
Not every
Yeah.
not every business owner is an entrepreneur or should be an entrepreneur. Uh,
Agreed.
but if they learn to adapt, some of these
Hmm.
technologies, I do phone consultations all the time. I don't
Hmm.
like the phone being constantly around me,
Hmm.
but I have an iPad with me and I have other things, and I could just, hey, Rob, can you Zoom? And it gives me a better idea of who the person is, their surroundings, what they're doing, their facial features. Are they, excited? Are
Right.
they, and
Right.
I can take all that and kind of devise something that I think is going to work for them. I
Right.
can't always do that on a phone or a text or
Right.
Facebook chat.
Right. And I think there's a lot that's going to, what we're going to realize coming out of this is the relationship portion,
Right.
right? So, and part of what even connected you and I was this idea of what's happening on LinkedIn and the,
Mhm.
what I now call the cringe fest of LinkedIn, right? So if you have something that says I'm a coach or I'm a whatever, then, somebody, you get a friend request that says, and their tagline says, I coach coaches that coach coaches to, 10x their leads in 7 seconds or something like that, right? And they sent you a friend request and says, hey, I see that we're in the same industry. We have some of the same friends. Would you like to connect, right? They've already telegraphed what is coming next, and that is the pitch on Connect.
Yeah.
So,
Or-
there's no relationship that's there. Where entrepreneurship, business is all about relationships, and
yeah.
you know,
Or,
it's
or they
that's
say
that's
that they're a closer, and
right,
and they've only been out of high school for 2 seconds.
right, yeah,
Dude,
absolutely.
you couldn't close anything. Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. And and so from the coaching standpoint, this is, I take those opportunities then for other people that they think they're in business or they're working for a business and they've been taught these techniques. And it's the same thing whether it's in veterinary business, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's in uh, real estate. It doesn't matter what it is, right? They're taught these these connection pitch. It's the odd, and like, if you're a cold caller, I understand it, but I pity you. I've learned that and I don't like that. But how do we take that and go pivot that and go, all right, teach me, or, instead of pitching me, build a relationship for me. Take Dean Jackson's 9-word email in a thing and say, hey, I saw we have some friends in common. How are you doing during COVID? Not how's your business doing, not how's anything. Let me connect with you on a human basis, right? And if I can build a relationship, your likelihood of at some point in time doing business with me is higher,
Yeah, I like when
right?
they send me a 16-page, you know, uh,
Right,
uh, mini booklet with 50 links to it, and I'm like,
right.
you got
Yeah,
to be kidding me.
yeah. And oh, by the way, book a call with me, right? And it's like, and sometimes I'll ask them, I'm like, okay, let's think about this. Have you been in a personal networking where you've networked with a group of business people? Do you walk in, the first person, and one of these people is there, you walk up and say, hey, I'm Rob. This is all the things I do. Would you like to book a call with me? That person is running the other way as fast as they can, right? Whereas if you walk in like, hey, I'm Ryan, how's everything going, right? So what brings you to any like really basic icebreaker of a question that then opens, and my second question is not, hey, would you like to book a call with me? That's somewhere down the line, if, right? If, but it's
You know,
just
when
the
when
current.
when when people used to ask me, I would when I would go to these events, they would ask me what I did,
Mhm,
and I would say, I build gymnasium sets with spent nuclear fuel rods, and they would just look at me like, "What?
mhm, right,
Can you do that? What?"
right. Oh
and,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would just BS my way through this conversation until they'd actually say, "No, that's not what you do." And
Hmm.
but it was an icebreaker that was totally different than what everybody else was spewing,
Hmm. Right.
and it, you know, it allowed me to be jovial, throw my
Hmm.
sarcasm out there, and it immediately told me, was that client or was that potential client someone that I really wanted to take on? Because if they
Hmm.
don't have a sense of humor, I don't want them as a client.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I do the same thing with icebreakers. It's like, well, what do you do, right? I'm an advisor. What do you advise? Whatever need to be advised on, right? Or I'm trained as a hypnotist, and I'll go in sometimes like if it's a free networking thing where I actually know that there's probably no connections there that I'm going to really truly build. I go in, well, what do you do? I'm a hypnotist, and which is then the coolest job in the entire place, right? It doesn't matter whether you're an attorney or what it is. Wait, he's a hypnotist, right? And that so the how do you create fun with it, right? It's so for me, every networking thing is a practice for building relationships.
No, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
So, you got something new also.
Hmm.
And we talked about this off the podcast, but
Right.
and I stumbled on it because it was like I'm trying to piece these words together, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But
Hmm. Right.
it's all mental, and
Hmm.
that's what this new thing's all about.
Right. Yeah. So the mental game, which is an acronym, so MNTL, it's just an acronym for mindset navigation with thoughts and language. It's just like something I just made up, right? So, but really, it's the mental game about everything we do, and that works with kind of executives and businesses and high performing athletes, executive level athletes. It's the stuff of what happens up here. And I really don't like the word mindset, but it's something that people understand, right? It's about mind control. How do I control my own mind versus my mindset? I know people that have a great mindset who have a really shitty business, and
Hmm.
I have people that have a really bad mindset that have huge businesses or careers or whatever that may be. So it's not really about mindset. It's how do I control my mind, the
Right.
habits and all those things. But yeah, so that's the mental game, which is just thementalgame.com, pretty simple on there. But it's there's no information because everything comes to me as referrals or invitation only. It's how I
That's the
do
best.
business.
That's the best way to build a business, and
Yeah.
I always encourage all my listeners to build some type of referral network,
Hmm.
because the fact is that the majority of the best clients you're ever going to get are going to
Hmm.
come from referrals.
Right. It's not a funnel. I mean, yeah, you can get people into your world via a funnel, but the real people that are going to be and do business with you, especially if it's any type of a high ticket thing,
Hmm.
is going to be relationship. It comes from a relationship you had with somebody else or the relationship you built with that person.
Yeah, to me, I hate funnels.
Hmm.
And I have people that help, and they'll build out funnels, and they'll say, Rob, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah.
right.
until it breaks, and then what?
Yeah, right. Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
always tell people you're one funnel away from a nervous breakdown, because honestly, if you're counting on a funnel to bring you more business, that's not how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Relationships, it's what you're doing for people.
Hmm.
That's going to get you more than anything else.
Yeah, that's what on one of my things it says that there is no like you're not here because you want some free magnet that gets you on a list. You're here because you're trying to figure out whether I'm real or not.
Yeah.
Because you've heard something and you're here, but you don't want any of the free stuff or be on an email campaign for me. No, if you so really the only way on one of my websites that you can contact me is with a Voxer or book a call. Right, that's the only way that you can get in touch with me. You can't email me. You can't do anything else. None of the information is there. Vox me. That's the
Wow.
easiest thing. Asynchronous communication. Boom. Done.
Yeah, I hate when people text me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Right.
and the reason why is, and we've all been trained. We're
Hmm.
all in this Pavlovian experiment. But as soon as this thing, I turn the
Hmm.
volume off.
Right.
If someone texts me or they send me a WhatsApp or something,
Mhm.
next thing I know, they're sending me an email. They're sending me how come you didn't respond to my text?
Hmm.
Because I have it off.
Yep. Yep.
I'll respond when I respond. My time
Hmm.
is valuable. I don't want to be part of your experiment that in 2 seconds after you text me, I'm responding back. That's not
Right.
how to run a
Exactly.
business.
Nope, that's I'm not. So that's what we the OPA, which is other people's agendas,
Hmm.
right? So that's like when you get up in the morning and if you look at your phone, you're looking at your Facebook, you're looking at text messages, all those things. You've now just turned your brain on to other people's agendas instead of what your agenda is.
Yeah. I
Yep.
give myself a moment of time in the morning, and then
Hmm.
usually around lunch, and I'll go through my social just to see if there's anything worthwhile. Half the
Right.
time it's a trap, because someone posts something, I respond, and then they're like get all triggered, and they want to go off
Hmm.
on me.
Yeah.
That's not how social media is supposed to work, people.
Yep.
But
Yep. The My favorite thing that unfortunately Facebook got rid of, and I understand exactly why, because it was all about attention, was Facebook used to have a groups app. So like when you were in a few groups, you could like look at only the things that were in the groups and you ignored your entire timeline. But
yeah,
they got rid of that because you ignored your entire timeline and all the ability to see all the ads and how they monetize everything. But that was like, okay, I can like get rid of all the extraneous stuff and go, the people that are important to me and the groups that I'm in that are important to me, I can look at only of those. But now we've lost that ability. I understand the monetization of it, but still
yeah.
frustrating.
And I watched one video on Facebook, and I think it was, I don't know, 6 minutes long, and there was four commercials. I'm like,
Yeah,
boy, this is worse than TV. I
yeah,
can't do this.
yeah, yeah. It's gotten pretty bad,
you
and
know,
yeah, again because everybody's paying for other people's attention.
yeah. So we
So
met each other through Steve Sims,
yes, we did.
and I was at a speakeasy back
Hmm.
in November, and I actually used my picture that came from that for my Rob versus the Morons book, and
Hmm.
I'll have to send you a copy, because in those books I talk about all the lousy customer service. I talk about LinkedIn. I talk about, oh my God, everything. And then the Rob versus Humanity was born through this pandemic.
Hmm.
But the speakeasy was something where Steve designed it, and you have no idea where you're going, what you're doing.
Hmm.
You're
Right.
spending a lot of money, and people are like, "What's going on? What are we doing?"
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, I had more of this open mindset where I knew that if I plunked down the money, I would meet awesome people who would
Hmm.
maybe turn into clients, maybe not, but maybe they would
Hmm.
refer me to somebody. And I came back from San Francisco with a bunch of new clients,
Hmm.
more than made up the money I put into it, probably 10 times that at least. And, it was just one of those events where it was not typical of the typical conferences that you go to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's not a mastermind. It's not a conference. It's not a anything. It's you're there And as I said before I even got there, I'm like, I don't care what I learn. What I care about is being, especially with COVID going on, I want to be in the room with 30 like-minded people, because getting 30 like or 40 like-minded people in the same room right now is practically impossible, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to go and say, okay, they're all in diverse backgrounds, and to be able to go, okay, I can feed off of these people. This is the kick in the butt that I needed for, because I'm, it's me, the dog, sometimes Jen when we're home and together at the same time, and it's like there's no, you go somewhere and there's like, okay, there's not the people that I need to feed off of.
Yeah.
So being there, and then all the bonus information, like, because the knowledge bombs that came from the speakeasy was huge. But there's business, there's relationships and friendships that I have that came out of that I can't even monetize.
Yeah. Yeah. It was an incredible experience, and it was. I missed Nashville,
Hmm.
but I heard a lot of great things, and
Hmm.
it's sort of cool because not everybody's going to attend the next one.
Hmm. Right.
So even if 50% return and come back to the next one, you got 50% new people
Right.
that you can interact with and bounce ideas off of, and for them to get to know you. And I think it's just a fantastic now.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm going to miss the next one because I'll be in Florida that time.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to San Diego. And for me, my personal thing is I won't book that one. And if it sells out on me, that's my unfortunate thing. But I won't book it until I've implemented enough things to 5x what I spent on the last one. Right. So that's my personal thing. So I'm like, okay, because I can afford to go, but I'm not going to until I've taken that, implement it, and go, okay, what I need is now earn me the right to go to the next one.
Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the pictures behind
Hmm.
Ryan of race cars. But if you're
Mm.
listening on the podcast, I'm just going to have to tell
Yeah.
you that there's pictures of race cars. But what why race cars on your wall? What's the symbol?
So this is not my wall. I'm actually in a private club in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I live in Kentucky, but I'm usually up
It's
in
your wall.
Indianapolis. Yeah. Okay. But well, this is also part of my networking and my business thing. So there is a organization called Club Corp, and they've got clubs all over the United States. Some are golf clubs, some are private clubs, but this is for me where business gets done when I'm in. I've got internet, I've got a network of people. They're all higher level people. I can have lunch with them, and it's not super expensive. But what paying for a private club versus just going to a coffee shop, and it's surrounded by people and it's so loud, I can come here and yeah. So this is because I'm in Indianapolis, and the Indy 500 is like I can see the Motor Speedway by like 2 miles away from where I am, because I'm on the 36th floor of a high rise downtown,
Wow.
and this is one of the huddle rooms. And you come in here, and it's a blast, and I meet people every single time I come. So
I
it.
used to belong to a bunch of clubs, and I would take my business there,
Mhm.
and it got to the point where it just got too noisy, and I just said I can't do this.
Mm. Yeah.
I
Yep.
couldn't do calls. People would interrupt me. They walk in the rooms, and then they'll
Yeah.
go, "What are you doing?"
Right. Oh yeah.
I'm in a call. What?
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
just, so yeah, that these shared rooms, these shared facilities, these clubs,
Mhm.
they all make great sense to a lot of people, but
Mhm.
I think people are still afraid to join them because there's a cost involved.
Right. Yeah. What? Yeah. What? Again, I pay a monthly fee, but it is minimal compared to what you would spend on marketing or so many different things, and going to get meeting people at coffee shops or whatever. I can come here and I can have lunch, and I can sit down for a lunch or a dinner or a breakfast, or if I'm just by myself, I can come into this huddle room that is private, that has a glass door, that I'm still looking out over Indiana,
Hmm.
and I've got this beautiful view. But there's maybe right now during COVID, there's probably 5 or 6 people that come in during the day, right? And it's I don't know, probably 8 or 10,000 square foot facility, but it's beautiful, and I can come out here, and then I'll come to a networking event when things are like that are going on. But it's and I'll meet 100 different people. and I'll go, okay, there's 2 or 3 people out here that are my network.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into a restaurant owner the other day, and I asked him how he was doing. He says, "Well, we closed our dining room and we're just doing all drive-in or delivery." And
Right.
I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because it's more profitable and we don't have to hire staff to clean our dining rooms anymore." I said, "Yeah, but you got all that space. You're still paying rent." He goes, "Yeah, but we don't have to have the lights on. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do that." And he
Hmm.
goes, "And I don't care if people get mad." He said, "This is the way it's going to be, and I'm making more money."
Right.
I'm
Yep.
like, "Well, yeah."
Right. That's where you learn from the things that happen, right? So that's that reemergence that we started talking about. That's he gets to carry that forward and go, okay, when his lease is up and go, okay, how do I turn this and then even reduce some more of my costs and reemerge as a business?
Yeah,
Or do I cut my dining room in half and do something else with it?
yeah,
Yeah, there's so many ways, and you can now take a doctor instead of having a doctor in staff. You can have in the clinic. You can have them at home seeing all of the virtual consults,
yeah,
right? And it's a brilliant thing. That's what the reemergence is how do I take the things that I learned of where I had to adapt quickly, and how do I carry them forward?
yeah. Because I mean, we went to the ER the one day. This was a couple weeks back for my son,
Hmm.
and there was nobody there. I mean,
Hmm.
and I'm like, "This is a skeleton town," and it was horrible because they treat you like they're so busy, but you look around, there's nobody around, and then it was like 6 hours later they finally treat you. I'm like, "You guys were faster when there was people in here."
Yeah.
So I think that I think a lot of the medical community is going to shift big
Hmm.
time to these technologies that we're experiencing right now, and they're
Right.
going to reevaluate how they treat people, and you're going to find more people are being treated at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that you can, and you have to have a valid client patient or, physician patient relationship that's there, or in the world of veterinarians, that client patient relationship
Yeah,
that is there, that's established. But, you know, now with, with the human medicine, you can do that right over a call.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and although it does pose some other questions that will the calls be recorded and how will they be used and will the
Hmm.
attorneys have access to them?
Right. Oh, yeah. And what happens with the insurance and the HIPAA laws and all of those things? Yeah, there's definitely some questions on that from a privacy standpoint. And I think there's technologies that are coming out that are HIPAA compliant.
Yeah,
Um, but again, Zoom is not going to be one of them.
yeah,
I don't think Zoom is HIPAA compliant. But there's things that you can do that are there, and that's what when they build these softwares, that's what they are. Is they're really trying to design them being around HIPAA compliant and privacy compliant. We'll
yeah.
see what happens, but yeah.
Yeah, because already, the schools are using this technology to teach
Hmm.
kids at home. The problem is some of the teachers are seeing inside these kids' homes and reporting them for stuff that you know that's
Right.
around,
Right.
and whether it be guns, whether it be questionable material, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's going to be the same thing with doctors, and they have to look at the patient and not go beyond that.
Right.
So you might have to start putting screens up behind you so you can't see
Hmm.
anything,
Right. Yep.
and it's yeah. There's so
Yeah.
many questions, but I think that people need to adapt to these changing times and kind of
Hmm.
look at the opportunities that are there and say, what can I do to make my business move forward instead of being stuck where it was?
Hmm. Yep. Absolutely. And it's all around you. You just got to find what that solution is. Again, I think the easiest thing for if you want a business that's going to move forward, you don't focus on the traditional, like, oh, I need to run Facebook ads or I need to do this. It's like, okay, focus on building relationships, right? So your best marketing comes from your referral of a customer that's had a great experience with you. Build those relationships, learn those, and figure out how I take a technology to adapt so I can build those quicker.
Yeah.
Done.
So how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
So probably the easiest thing to do. So we got depending upon kind of the whether if you're in the veterinary world or kind of in the medical world, veterinariancoaching.com is that side of it. Ryan Smith Advisor is my is the other spot, which will lead to the mental game and all of my private advising and all the stuff that I do there, which has my boxer and all the stuff that I talked about there. So those are the easiest things to do. Yeah, and get hold of me and whatever I can do to help. I'll give anybody 15 minutes, but you'll have to pay beyond that.
But the 16th minute is going to cost you
It,
$400.
it might. It might be more than that. You never know. Depends on the person. If you're a pain in the butt, it might cost you a whole lot more.
So what do you think of TikTok?
Um, yeah, it's a loaded question. I think
Yeah.
there's some ability there, but yeah, it's
There's
not me.
there's ability for some people, but yeah,
Right.
not for me.
Yeah, I'm not a Kardashian, so it's not for me.
I didn't like Snapchat. I got rid of that off my phone a couple years ago, and
Hmm.
I stopped using Pinterest. I mean, because really, that's not
Yeah.
my group
Yep.
of people. The majority of places I target are Facebook and LinkedIn. Now I have videos
Ditto.
on YouTube, but I think YouTube is really not a social network. It's more of a place to build up your authority
Right.
with videos. But
Right.
um, and then that's why I tell people, I said, look, you know what? You
Yeah.
can't master all the social networks. So focus
Hmm.
on the ones that are
Yeah.
relevant to you and your audience.
Yep.
I just find my audience is not on TikTok. They're not on Snapchat, and the
Right.
ones that are there are too young for me.
Yep. I'm pretty much all in on LinkedIn from a business standpoint because that's again where I can build business relationships. If I'm looking for a personal relationship, that's Facebook, and I'll do some Facebook stuff. Or the veterinarian coaching stuff, but my private advising stuff is not on Facebook. It's not on Instagram. It's not on TikTok. It's not on any of those. It's because I'm building relationship with business people.
Yeah, and you're not dancing
No,
on video. And
no.
honestly, I only know one dance, so it's called the Anspach Shuffle, and it's never going on TikTok. So
Right. I get it. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I left my two-stepping days long behind me. So yeah,
I didn't
so,
even have two steps. So you were better.
so yeah, that was my old cowboy clubbing days, long, long, long time ago.
Ah,
Too old for that
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So what do you
yeah.
what's in the future for you?
Um, Build relationships. That's it. I'm all in on relationships. The people that whatever I can do to build relationships is what I want to do.
Yeah,
That's it doesn't matter which type of business it is. This relationship that you and I have from just doing from Facebook and now even doing the podcast. This is a relationship where we'll go like, oh, hey, this is something that I learned, or
yeah,
again, I'll pull something from one of your books and say, check this out, right?
right.
So that's how we help each other.
Yeah, and it's not the spam me 2 seconds after we connect on any social network. So
Right.
that's an instant adios, and I'm going to kick
Yeah.
you to the curb. So
Yeah. Yeah.
don't do that.
No. And that's my new thing is I'll send videos to people. They'll instantly, you get the connect on the spam on connect. And then I'm like, so I'll send them a 30 or 45-second video that's like, hey, here's what I want you to do is I want to invite you to think about how you're doing it. And I want to invite you to think about building the relationship versus the pitch on connect.
And
Now,
does it
now
work?
I'm going to, yeah, exactly. Well, sometimes, but sometimes I'll watch and they'll go, oh, well, that's not how I learned how to do it.
Mhm.
Fine. We are now unconnected.
One week I must have gotten 100 of the same stupid templates off of LinkedIn. I'm like, who
Right.
teaches this crap? Are they getting it from some guru? I mean, that's just
Yeah.
horrible.
Right. Yeah. That's a guru that needs to go back into a cave.
He needs to get kicked into Jimmy's. Is what he
Yeah.
needs to
That's just true too. Yeah. I was trying to be polite, but
do.
this is Rob that, yeah,
I
you're
don't
not
be
going to be
polite.
polite,
Mhm. No, I
so,
don't do that.
yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's all good.
Anyway, this is what makes Ryan an e-hero, and he's patient, um, and he doesn't do things the way I do things, but that's better because
Right.
people survive. So
We just do it differently. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So get a hold of Ryan. Go to his Facebook, go to his LinkedIn, go to his website, and book a call. 15
Yeah.
minutes. I mean, it could
Hmm.
change your life, could change the way you do things,
Hmm.
and it'll help you emerge from this pandemic a little bit more profitable. Maybe gear you to a different course of action.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
thank you for being here, Ryan, and we should do this again. This was fun.
Cool. Absolutely. I'd love it. I really appreciate you having me, Rob.
And for everybody else out there, we'll catch you on the next episode. Adios.